Now, whenever you're relocating large pieces of equipment, I mean, especially if you're talking about, hundreds of feet of automated equipment, how do you ensure that when you realign those, they're realigned perfectly? And the way you do that is through locators. So you have to have mechanical locators. And a lot of times you'll see mechanical locators in manufacturing processes. You don't necessarily see them on the equipment themselves as equipment alignment products or features. But in the systems we deploy systems that, or can deploy, if it's an option to add that, is mechanical locators, where let's say you have two pieces of conveyor. Those conveyors can be mechanically relocated to each other, so that way they're in exact alignment. Instead of having to run a laser line and measure and pull a center point off of both conveyors and just hoping whoever does that process does it right. And I'm just giving conveyors as a generic example, because a lot of times, conveyors have a little bit more tolerance to be off. But if you're talking about like robotics and robotic placement and fine-tuned placement, then you need that placement to be fine-tuned. So with the locators, you can essentially plug those conveyors back into each other mechanically, and also, let's move on to the next thing, electrically. So you can have the mechanical and the electrical plug connectors built into the same module, so that way after the mechanics line up and plug in, you then have the electrical connectors that it can plug in. Now, again, depending on how much cost you want to spend on the system could be where you mechanically align things, plug things in, bolt them to the ground, and then electrically plug them in at a further process, manually just doing plug connectors. However, it should be minimized to just plug connectors. There should not be any hardwired connectors. So anywhere where there's a split in different pieces of hardware, there should be a plug connector. And the other thing is you should also have your communications also being plug connectorized. So all your communications should be set up in a way so that each system is its own communication device. You should have remote I/O that's on each individual conveyor, so that way that conveyor lives as if it's its own separate piece of hardware. All your robotic cells should be their own separate piece of hardware. Even if everything runs off of one PLC, one main brain, everything also has its own separate hardware. Now, you can't have everything have its own PLC. However, the caveat to that and the challenge with that is that now you're increasing your cost. So now every module has to have an additional $3,000 cost for each individual PLC on that system.